planning to just follow the crowd over to the lawn where they would have their like workshops or like food or whatever they were planning. That's where I was when the protests first began, but then, as we know, things went south pretty fast when law enforcement mobilized really heavily like from the start. We were all just kind of shocked as to how much police presence there were, given that there were so many there even before like a crowd had fully formed. You know, lining 21st Street along Speedway was like a whole row of like state troopers on horses, and that's when we were like, okay, things just got real. One person that I talked to, they said that it feels like they're like traveling back in time because we're making history. And I think like that, and I think that was the moment that I was really able to like put these protests in like the bigger context. In the hours up until then, I was just like very like in the moment, very focused on like knowing like where state troopers are, looking out for fellow reporters and friends. And I think that moment is what really allowed me to like step back and be like, wow, like I'm putting this in like a national context.
Emerson's encampment lasted 4 days until 118 people were arrested in the early hours of April 25th, 2024.
The university, during the actual encampment leading up to the arrest, did inform students that the possibility of police intervention could happen, and that they basically were saying that they advised students to leave the area and disperse, but they did not, beyond that, from an administrative level, do anything to necessarily protect the students.
I understood last year and still currently how important it is to be the voice and inform everyone on what is happening, but it doesn't make it any easier. It's something that all journalists have to grapple with at some point in their career. The events that you're reporting on affect real people, and they're very real to the people that they affect. But it was just really weird to be in the position to grapple with all of these decisions and emotions at only 18 years old.
Being finally, for one point in my life, or one point in my journalistic career, being one of the sources that was on the ground, literally right there, allows you to sort of have a greater perspective of how important it is to get to the truth, and how sometimes that can be muddled up by factors that you may not even consider.
I basically hauled ass to Centennial to start reporting on this. I just remember never having to like stop everything that I was doing and get up and go cover something like that before.
It started with a few groups of people linking arms and sitting on Centennial Common right here. From the start, there was a heavy police presence of Boston police officers circling the protesters with their bikes. From there, it escalated into a larger encampment with tents and a large barricade around the encampment. After 2 days, around 7 a.m., the university had police officers sweep the encampment and arrest around 98 students.
The UCSD encampment popped up, I believe, a few days or a week after the initial encampments that happened like on the East Coast and at UCLA.
When it was just them living in the encampment, they seemed to be having a pretty good time. It was actually very interesting to see this welcoming and open community where everyone was just trying to help each other out.
I ran to campus and was able to see the arrestees being transported in handcuffs onto buses to be taken to jail. They were relying on us, on their peers who were devoted to telling their stories in order to share that information, to get the news out, to talk about the protests that were happening every day.
We actually stayed in the newsroom that night. We slept here just a few hours, and we were out there at 5 a.m., I want to say, when they started setting up. On our campus, the protests were a group of people set up tents and canopies and various other things.
The first day they had DPS and LAPD sort of come in as a joint team to initially sweep the encampment. I think we had 93 people arrested, a combination of both students and just community members. Very consistent presence from LAPD and DPS, which then culminated in the final sweep where they went in and they thoroughly removed the encampment and took, I don't believe there were arrests, but they took student ID information.
And now like most protests on campus, they get barely a dozen people. And it's hard not to see The connection between how the university responded to the pro-Palestinian protests and not draw that line between that and the low turnout of protests that we're seeing today. People just are scared because they don't know what the university is going to react to. They don't know when and they don't know how. Like, people, I think, are afraid to just even plan.
It was insane to see our campus and our encampment specifically on national news sites such as New York Times. Just from that very first day alone, there were news helicopters and like both local and national news outlets coming onto Centennial Common.
If you were there, you understand how much of an event this was, but everyone on the outside that was looking in were just very much like interested in talking to us about it, but didn't fully understand the gravity of it.
Knowing what I knew about our coverage and what the situation was, when I looked to larger, more national coverage, I was disappointed more than anything else. They really cut out a lot of information, they cut out a lot of nuance. Honestly, in some cases, they were kind of inaccurate as well.
For USC, a big thing for us was that after the sort of initial days of the encampment, outside news wasn't allowed on campus. So really, we as the Daily Trojan were sort of the only ones who could provide like a thoroughly unbiased account of what was happening.
It's in those big moments that people turn and realize how important media is, how important student media is. And even if they're not always paying attention to every single thing that we publish, if that one piece is helping them, helping someone stay informed, helping people decide how to act, whatever, there is value in that.